Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Tactical Force. This movie tells the story of the SWAT team who was accidentally involved in a criminal case while they were in training. However, the incident makes them have to lose one of his members and intend to take revenge. So, could they manage to catch the criminals? Let's find out in Tactical Force. Tactical Force begins by showing a robbery in a minimarket by several masked criminals. Some criminals initially entered the minimarket and pointed guns at all customers and employees to be taken as hostages. After that, they asked all the hostages to lie down and demanded some money from the minimarket owner. The criminal even took a police officer hostage who was accidentally there at the convenience store. Fortunately, the police officer had reported the robbery to his other police colleagues. After several police groups arrived at the scene, a police officer contacted the robber and negotiated. However, because the negotiation is rejected by the criminals, the police officer immediately contacted a special unit, namely the SWAT team. After the SWAT team arrives, the head of the special unit, Tate, takes over the radio communications and tries to renegotiate with the robbers. But again, they couldn't find an agreement. Tate finally had no other choice but to enter the convenience store, forcibly arrest the criminals, and rescue the hostages. He ordered 3 other SWAT members named Blanco, Jannard, and Hunt to secretly infiltrate the mini-market. After successfully getting into the mini-market, Tate and the rest of his team began to carry out their tactics to catch the robbers one by one. The method Tate used to catch criminals was quite effective, but it caused several hostages to be injured and some property damaged. After defeating all the criminals, they left the scene and returned to their base. The next day, Tate and his 3 other team members seemed satisfied that they had thwarted last night's robbery. Shortly after, the head of the Special Unit Division called them to meet him at his office. He scolds Tate and the other members because their actions in overcoming the robbery last night resulted in many losses, ranging from all the robbers who had been killed and several hostages being injured to material losses from the mini-market owner. The head of the division then decided to give a short lecture to his team members on ways to rescue hostages that were more effective and did not cause more losses. The next day, when a lecturer explained methods to rescue hostages, the members seemed disinterested in the lecture because they knew more effective rescue methods based on their experiences so far. Seeing the reaction of the SWAT members who underestimated him, the lecturer decided to stop giving lesson and left the room. The scene switches to the moment where a man named Demetrius and a woman named Ilya are holding a man named Kenny hostage. Demetrius threatens Kenny by using his knife to show the location of an item that Kenny has hidden. Kenny then directs Demetrius and Ilya to a hangar, where he hides the item they are looking for. At the same time, a black sedan driven by a man named Lampone drove towards the hangar. Lampone and his friend got out of the car and immediately pointed guns at Demetrius and Ilya. Seeing this, they pointed their guns at Lampone and his friends. However, after a conversation between them, Demetrius and Lampone finally realized that they had the same goal, to retrieve the items hidden by Kenny. They then decided to discuss ownership of the item. During their conversation, a police car siren suddenly appeared and approached them. Hearing this, Demetrius, Ilya, Lampone, and the others immediately hid in the container in the back of their car. It turned out that the siren sounded from the car belonging to the SWAT team led by Tate. Tate then gave Jannard, Blanco, and Hunt directions about the attack training simulation they would do in the hangar. Tate ordered all its members to equip themselves with weapons, grenades, bulletproof vests, and other equipment. After all the members were ready, Tate gave orders to enter the hangar. On the other hand, Demetrius and Lampone were asking how the police found out they were there. They panicked, even more when they saw the actions of the SWAT team members, who looked fully armed and seemed to be on an arrest mission. Whereas Tate and the 3 members actually did not know anything about them in that place. The SWAT team only did a simulation of catch training which they usually do routinely in the hangar. However, this time they did not seem to expect that they would actually be dealing with criminals carrying out kidnappings and smuggling. After all SWAT team members opened the steel doors, they immediately went up to the 2nd floor to simulate firing on several targets that had been prepared in every room on the floor. Hearing gunshots from upstairs, Lampone and Demetrius panicked and began to urge Kenny to immediately show the location of the items he had hidden. But it actually sparked a commotion between them, and a shootout finally happened. Tate, who heard a commotion from downstairs, ordered Blanco to check the situation. Unfortunately, when Blanco arrived downstairs, Lampone's partner suddenly came out of hiding and shot straight into Blanco's chest. Blanco, who was still not in a state of readiness, could not dodge the shot and die instantly. Demetrius, who had just discovered that Blanco's bullets were just rubber bullets, began to realize that the SWAT team members who were there were only doing training. That means they actually still don't know about them. Hearing gunshots for the second time, Tate and two other members decided to go downstairs and find out what had happened. After arriving downstairs, they met with Demetrius and Lampone's gang, who confessed that they had killed a police officer. Hearing this, Tate felt very angry and intended to shoot them. However, because the criminals already knew that the weapons used by the SWAT team members were fake, they did not feel afraid of Tate's threat and instead opened fire on the SWAT team. Tate and his two members were forced to retreat and hide in the room behind an iron door for cover. They then ran up the stairs to the second floor to find a way out. But their action failed because the criminals already knew their location through the window. Because all of the SWAT team's communication tools were in their boxcar, Tate and his members could not contact the police station for help. They must find the right tactics and strategies to get out of that place and defeat all the criminals. Meanwhile, Demetrius and Lampone are again arguing over what Kenny has hidden. Demetrius insisted on staying in the hangar and fighting the police because he wanted the item badly. Demetrius then added reinforcements by calling some of his comrades to come to the place so he could fight the police officers. Shortly after that, Ilya entered the hangar in a SWAT team car and took several weapons and cell phones from the car. After a few minutes, Demetrius's companions finally arrived at the location in a black car. Demetrius and his companions then looked for a way to break through the steel door on the lower floor to enter the room on the second floor. But since breaking through the door would take a lot of time, Demetrius decided to enter the second floor through the window using the stairs. At the same time, Tate knows that the criminals are out of the room, so he uses the opportunity to go to the SWAT team's car and take the weapons there. However, when Tate got into the car, a man suddenly appeared and pointed a gun at him. Fortunately, Tate quickly defeated the man and brought Kenny, who coincidentally was being held captive in the car, to the room behind the steel door. While returning to the room, Tate and Hunt suddenly heard the sound of fighting from the second floor, so they immediately ran toward the sound source to check the situation. As it turned out, the voice came from one of Demetrius' comrades who had made it to the second floor and was beating Janard. Tate immediately dragged the man and beat him until he died. After that, Tate immediately chased after Kenny, who suddenly went to the toilet and immediately pointed a gun at him. Shortly after, Tate showed the items Kenny had hidden to Hunt and Janard. They finally found out that the criminals were after the items Kenny had hidden. Kenny then told them about an exit that could lead them to the underground room. On the other hand, Lampone adds reinforcements by calling his friend, Pharaoh. After that, Demetrius and Lampone's gang devised a plan to find and capture Kenny. But after they searched every room, they couldn't find Kenny's whereabouts until they finally found a secret door that led to the underground room. They immediately entered through the secret door to look for Kenny's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Tate walks separately from Kenny and the other two SWAT members because he has to check the situation behind them while carrying Kenny's suitcase. After ensuring the situation was safe, Tate decided to rejoin his two other members. But suddenly, Pharaoh appeared and immediately caught him. At the same time, Kenny and two other SWAT members were successfully surrounded by Demetrius's and Lampone's gang. After that, when Demetrius told Ilya to kill Tate, Tate immediately said he knew about the item they were looking for and that Kenny currently didn't have the item. As a result, Demetrius gave up his intention to kill Tate. On the other hand, Lampone and his other companions managed to catch Kenny, Hunt, and Janard. Lampone, who was excited because he had managed to snatch Kenny's suitcase, immediately opened the suitcase. However, it turned out that the suitcase was empty because the contents had been moved by Hunt before they were caught. Lampone then ordered Pharaoh and his other companions to check whether Demetrius and his gang had the suitcase. When Pharaoh and his men arrived at Tate's place, and Demetrius' gang was there to carry out the execution, Tate suggested that Demetrius escape from the basement using the SWAT car they were currently using hiding in. Demetrius has no other choice but to remove Tate's handcuffs so he can get help defeating Lampone and his teammates. Not long after, Tate and Demetrius' gang burst out of the hangar to avoid being shot by Pharaoh and his men. The chase between Demetrius's and Lampone's gang finally took place. Meanwhile, Lampone, who had lost his temper because Kenny still didn't want to tell him where the item was, decided to shoot Kenny right in the head. On the other hand, one of Lampone's men, who was following Hunt to find the item, was suddenly attacked by Hunt and was knocked unconscious. Hunt then quietly returned to where Lampone and Janard were and immediately pointed a gun at Lampone. He then handcuffed Lampone and tied him in the corner of the room. On the other hand, Tate and Demetrius' gang again broke into the hangar by crashing the SWAT car into the hangar door. Tate immediately runs to join Janard and Hunt to fight Lampone's gang together. The shootout between Lampone's men and the SWAT team was so fierce that the SWAT car was destroyed. Hunt then took the initiative to blow up the car used as a shield by the Lampone gang so that the entire gang died instantly due to the explosion. Unfortunately, Demetrius sneakily approached Hunt and immediately pointed a gun at him. As a result, Hunt, Janard, and Tate are again taken hostage by Demetrius and Ilya. Demetrius then brought the item he had been looking for and ordered Ilya to kill the SWAT teams. Suspiciously, because he still hadn't heard any shots from inside the hangar, Demetrius immediately went back into the hangar and found that Ilya had been knocked out by Lampone and Pharaoh. They apparently still survived the previous explosion. The situation has turned around. Now Demetrius is being held hostage by Lampone and Pharaoh. When Pharaoh was about to shoot the SWAT team, Tate asked for his last request to put earplugs on himself and the other two members. Tate then detonated a sound bomb that knocked Lampone down a few seconds later. Pharaoh, feeling cornered, tried to escape from the hangar, but luckily Tate managed to catch him. The fight between Tate and Pharaoh was quite fierce because they had great fighting abilities. Fortunately, Tate managed to beat Pharaoh until he was killed by being stabbed by a concrete iron. Tate and two of his members finally managed to capture Demetrius, Ilya, and Lampone and secure the items targeted by the criminals. After that, they sat in their car, saying that their boss would definitely scold them for the mess that just happened. The next day, Tate, Janard, and Hunt are called by the head of the division to offer his condolences for Blanco's death. After that, instead of scolding them, he appreciated their actions yesterday. The moral that can be learned from this movie is the importance of teamwork in completing a mission. With the cohesiveness of all team members, we will be able to face all challenges well.